This is how the output looks. So we calculate the activity. The drug has an activity because it's not vehicle, it's not placebo. That gives us the total amount of signal. And then we classify the signal into the classes that the algorithm recognizes, which are these: antidepressant, antipsychotic, anxiolytic, etc., or the subclasses, which are serotonin reuptake inhibitor, etc. And then the system gives us a probability that the signal produced by this compound fits in these different classes. So after a while, even the medicinal chemists learn to read this very quickly. You show that, and you show this graph to the medicinal chemists. At the beginning, they understand nothing, they don't like it, but 2 months, and it happens, 2 months it takes, they look at this and say, oh, that's an antidepressant. I love it. Let's do more of that. We always use the same colors. The colors have not changed in 18 years. So it's very easy to learn to read them. And you can do other cute things. For example, here you see this is a compound, risperidone. It's an antipsychotic that is well known. So that we do a whole drug out. So we train without risperidone. And we pretend we don't know what risperidone is and see what the system says. And the system is right, in the risperidone at this dose is inactive, it becomes an antipsychotic, and then it goes all the way to a high dose antipsychotic. So we could analyze why I chose those colors. For me, antipsychotics are purple, anxiolytics are yellow, and sedatives are orange, and people seem to accept those colors. So here you have diazepam, that's a kind of Valium-like compound. As you go very high, it turns from anxiolytic to sedative. So it behaves well. It can also tell you the therapeutic range of safety for your drug. In this case, you may be looking for a sedative, but maybe not. Maybe you just want something that is an anxiolytic, but it has a wider range of doses where it remains an anxiolytic. And the system tells you. So it tells you lots of things. It tells you the activity, it tells you the class, and it also tells you the therapeutic range, and also tells you when it becomes toxic. We have a side effect class. These are nasty things that you don't want to see in your compound. So what we do, this is the whole drug out experiment that we did for, these are all the antipsychotics. These are all used in humans, and you can see how they look. Some of them look like quetiapine. It has a little anxiolytic effect, and then antipsychotic, and then high dose antipsychotic. So something like that, it's of interest. And then we screen thousands of drugs. So we have partners where they come with their favorite molecules, and they screen them. Some are completely inactive. Sometimes the S version is active and the L version is inactive, and they have no idea, and we don't know why, but it just happens. And then we run a whole library. So here is a library of very interesting compounds, and you get a bunch of them were antidepressants, a bunch of the antipsychotics, anxiolytics, analgesics, and a bunch of them are unknown. The system doesn't really know what they are. This particular company was interested in the unknowns, and so they pursue these for different things. One of the compounds early on was this compound 432. It has an interesting signature. It is very beneficial with cognitive enhancing capacities. They worked for about 2 years, and they came to this compound, 856, and they like it. They did other things with it. They did CFOS expression, they did fMRI, and microdialysis, and they like it, and they took it into the clinic for schizophrenia. And the important thing for this compound for them is that it did not bind to D2 receptor or 5-HT2A. These are the typical receptors for antipsychotics. And D2 it's a bad thing. It creates efficacy, but it also creates very serious side effects. So it's when you touch the dopaminergic system, good things happen and very bad things happen too. So these are the results of a clinical trial, and this is total symptoms efficacy. You can see placebo, people on placebo always respond. This is the curse of the clinical trials. They always feel better. It's, if you are taken care of. Somebody's looking at you, you have the nurse, you have the doctor, and they're giving you a drug, and there is a high chance that the drug is not placebo, and people respond. So you always have to beat placebo response. So you can see it's quite huge. And the drug did, and the separation was quite amazing. This is PANSS, which is the scale used for schizophrenia. It measures the positive symptoms like hallucinations and delusions, and the negative symptoms, which is apathy and type of depression. The negative symptoms are mostly untouched by current antipsychotic symptoms, medicines. Most of the medicines, especially dopaminergic, act on the positive symptoms. So when they look at the negative subscale of PANSS, they see a huge response. This is basically unheard of. Moreover, when they leave the drug on an open label for 4 more weeks, the drug continues to work. So this drug is expected to be a $1 billion drug. It is going to be a blockbuster because there's nothing like this. It's very safe, and it's more effective than normal antipsychotics. So, and this is the company that is taking the drug to the market. So,
let me ask you about the negative symptoms.
Yeah.
What is the placebo in that case? So they also have negative symptoms?
Yes. I mean, we are all anxious and slightly depressed, so if somebody's taking care of you, you feel better. So, yeah, I mean, you can see it maybe it's not as big as this, but, PANSS is a very general scale, and picks up things. But remember also, these are schizophrenic patients, so they will have, but everybody will show some kind of an effect. So we can do other things. We can also look at which are the features that are changing in the system. How long do I have?
17 minutes.
17
plus questions.
Okay, so I'm going to leave this in here just very quickly. I want to give you the other quite different example. We can look at what actual feature. You remember we measure behaviors. We can see which behavior is increased by a drug, which behavior is decreased by a drug. So it could be, and here you see each of these bars is a behavior, and it's either increase or decrease. So some drugs may have this signature. Some other drugs, like antipsychotics, may have a different signature. We can represent this multidimensional system in 2D, doing a PCA or something similar. And in this case, and this is real data, all the mice that were treated with drugs used for bipolar disorder are in blue in this blob or cloud, where the center is the mean and the standard error and the standard deviation is the radius. And in here we put all the antipsychotic reference drugs. And then we train a classifier to separate these as much as possible, and then we can drop something in the middle and see where it goes. So we took that drug that was tested as an antipsychotic, and we asked, is it possible that it could also treat bipolar? So when we drop it there, it actually landed on the bipolar cloud, not on the antipsychotic cloud. So meaning maybe we should do a different clinical trial and look for bipolar disorder. So all this is in silico, all the data is there, we just need to grab the data, do different things. So once you run the experiment, you can answer many different questions. So I'm just going to go to my second experiment. As an example, these are all things that one can do with the system. This is then the second part of my story. Early Signal is a nonprofit focused on using wearable devices and home sensors for healthcare. The idea is similar. We get a lot of behavioral data, a rich data set, and then we play with it. And for humans, we can do different things. We can ask, what is the signature on an accelerometer worn on the wrist for Parkinson's disease or Huntington disease or autism? So I want to show you a little bit of that. There are lots of different wearable devices. There are electronic patches that you can put on your skin, patches that you can stick to your skin, things for the wrist, bed sensors, things that you can hang from your neck, etc. And the iPhone or smartphone, which is also a sensor. And there are different domains, so you can look for emotional reactivity, sleep is a big thing, circadian rhythms, motor activity, etc., etc., etc. So this is now a big, very hot area of research. We know that based on some of the sensors, these are the different particular sensors that come with it, like you can use. You can look for signals of bipolar stress, depression, schizophrenia, etc. So the evidence is out there that you can use these for good things. So what we set up to do is pick up behaviors, for example, aggression, or in autism you have lots of hand stereotypies, which are very typical of autism, that if you treat autism with something that it works, you expect those stereotypies to get milder. So the clinical application of a sensor with the algorithms that quantifies the stereotypies is of obvious value. Same for Huntington disease, Parkinson's disease, etc. So today I'm just going to show you something that we did for hands, gestures and stereotypies, but we are very interested in nightmares and gait. So there are a bunch of things that we can do, things in bold I'm going to show you, but there are many other things that can be done. So these are some of the gestures that we did. This is called knitting. Basically, you just, this is very abnormal behavior that kids with Rett syndrome, for example, will do. This is her pulling, picking, clasping, and hand mouthing. There are many other things. We created data sets. These are healthy people doing all of these gestures. We have different volunteers that have done this. So we have, I think, 9 now. And we do it for 3 different sessions. And each one is done for 20 seconds. Then we take this data, chop it in different ways, and we train algorithms to see whether we can recognize all of these things.